Hello, friends, and today is our group discussion day, and the group is basically you should have learned in school, but you didn't. And for this very interesting group discussion, I am being joined by my friend from UK, Mr. Neville Gunt. So I will actually straight away go to him and start our discussion. Hello, Neville. Can you hear me? I can see you, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, CK, and I can see you as well. Jolly good. Wonderful. Well, everything you should have learned at school but didn't. So, question we've got is, what did you learn at school? I can see a beautiful blackboard in the background. You've been very busy, CK, this afternoon. So, let me ask you a couple of simple questions. What does H2O mean?
H2O basically means water, but if you want better analysis, I can do that as well.
Well, you see, you can go even further, but H2O, water. Okay. Is that of any use in your life currently? H2O? You just say water, don't you?
Well, human body, to best of my knowledge, is made of water up to the extent of 90%. And rest of is other stuff.
Now you see, now you're going all technical on me. I'll ask you a simple question. You're going really technical on me. So when you ask for water, you don't walk up to a coffee shop and ask for H2O, do you? You ask for water. Can I have a bottle of water? Can I have a bottle of H2O? If you ask for a bottle of H2O, it'd be interesting to see what the response would be. What about 7 times 8? What's 7 times 8?
56.
56, yeah. At least you learn your times tables. So, and what's the perimeter of a rectangle?
That I think you have beaten me. I'm not able to think.
Well, if it's one side is X and one side is Y, the perimeter is 2X plus 2Y. And the area of the rectangle is X times Y. Yeah? Oh, pretty useful stuff. But what about...
Yes, please go ahead, Neville.
Go on. But what about things like self-care? Tell me about self-care. What did you learn at school about self-care?
I think in school, most students, like everywhere in the world, they learn about cleanliness and, it's about self-care. So you have to be on time. So a little bit of discipline. A little bit of cleanliness, but I don't think anything is taught beyond this.
Okay, so let's talk about what we do learn at school. Okay, so let's just rattle off a few subjects that you can remember learning at school. Okay, I'll do one and then you can do one. How's that? Let's see how good we are. How many we can get to. Are you ready?
Sounds good.
Okay. Mathematics.
Chemistry.
Physics.
Social studies.
Biology.
Botany.
Technical drawing.
Physical education.
You're having to think, you see. You're not rattling these off. But these are just subjects, aren't they? What about a subject like communication? Did you study communication for 14 years at school?
Well, not in school, but definitely in the management course.
Yeah, but that was in a management course. That wasn't at school, was it? So in education, you didn't study communication. You didn't have a subject called communication that you did on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock every Tuesday, did you?
No, Neville, we didn't have this subject called communication.
Or what about self-esteem? Did you have a course on self-esteem regularly?
Well, this was taught at home, maybe.
Maybe. What about the importance of sleep? How to sleep? Why do we sleep? Why sleep is important? How many hours do you need to sleep? What can you do while you're sleeping? Did you do a sleep course at school?
Not at all. Not at all.
No, you see, the thing is, and hopefully people are understanding now, we do all of these wonderful technical courses at school, but anything of a practical nature, what you might call a soft skill or useful for your future life, we tend not to do. And we make the assumption that we just learn that because we're at school. So we learn discipline because we turn up at 9 o'clock for a 9 o'clock lesson. How many times were you late, CK, for your lessons?
Well, it was a good prank many times, and deliberately you go late. But generally, I was a good student. I think I would have I could claim that I was 90% of the time I was on time.
So 90% of the time. So 10% you wasn't on time. And now in your commercial life, if you were 10% regularly not on meetings on time, what would your clients think about you?
Well, I think I get your point, Neville. Let me tell you my story. You see, I have a couple of times slept during the meeting in front of a client, and when there was not a group discussion, it was like two people, me and him, and I have slept twice in my career.
That must have been embarrassing, CK.
Absolutely, Neville. I mean, it was a disaster. No business from those clients, and I have not been in touch with them also.
And if you slept during school, I mean, I can remember as far back as I was, and maybe I'd dozed off because, quite frankly, some of the subjects were quite boring. I'd get a board rubber thrown at me, and that board rubber wasn't a dust rubber; it was a wooden rubber with a duster attached to it. So it hurt. It woke me up as well. But I think the point about what I'm saying here is we learn all these wonderful subjects, and don't get me wrong, it's really important to learn these things at school, because by just doing them, we do learn some discipline. So, for instance, we go to a classroom on time, we're attentive, we're listening, we're thinking. Have I lost you? You were listening and thinking in every lesson, weren't you? Every single lesson, CK.
Well, I was sleeping just like you, and
well, there you go. You see. So the thing is, we weren't taught how to listen. We weren't taught how to think. It was assumed just because we were there, but we learned how to listen, and we learned how to think, and we learned how to study. And we went home and we did the homework and we handed the homework in. And we learned how to be proficient doing our homework. And the point is, many people don't learn how to be proficient. We're not very good at time managing. And yet time management is really important when you get into your proper life, when you have to start to earn money and think for yourself and provide bread on the table. So all of these things that we make assumptions about, we don't actually learn how to do it. It's just expected that by doing it time and time again, it becomes automatic. A bit like driving a car. But we're taught how to drive a car. We learn how to drive a car. And then when we get good at it, then we learn properly, and we can actually recognize that we need to have our eyes looking forwards rather than down on the pedals. Because if you've got your eyes down on the pedals trying to work out which one's which and which one to do, the likelihood is you'll have a crash. So what we're trying to be here is very practical about the things we should have learned at school but didn't. And what I'd like to do is just to step into where we are today. What's the World Economic Forum talking about the skills that we need in 2025? And I've printed out a list because I was quite surprised on this list. Just what was on the list, to be honest with you. And these are the top 10 skills that people will need in 2025. Okay, so here we go. Analytical thinking and innovation. Did you do a subject at school called analytical thinking and innovation? I'm going to ask the question every time. No. What about active learning and learning strategies? Do you remember doing that?
I think during school, they would have sounded like rocket science.
What about complex problem solving? Now, let me say, you've got a blackboard behind you there, and we can see lots of complex statements that have been put up there. So we did do some of this, but how many people were good at it? Well, everyone would think it's probably maths, and it's more than maths. It could be physics, could be chemistry, could be biology. It could be English literature. It could be dissecting a poet into its component parts. So that's the critical thinking and analysis and complex problem solving that are taken care of. What about creativity, originality, and initiative? When were we at school? When were we asked to take initiatives? Not that I recall. What about leadership and social influence? Do you remember doing any leadership courses at school regularly?
Except from scouting, there was nothing else.
What about how to use Twitter or Facebook? I mean, even today, do your kids get told how to use social media, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, etc.?
In today's school, they are teaching them how to make presentations and how to use Word, etc. But I don't think they are teaching them how to use social media at all. Okay, well, it's a big part of our world today. And I say these are the top 10 skills that the WF have recognized for 2025. We're not there yet, by the way. This is 2021 still. So we've got 4 years to go. We're all right. So what about the other things we got? Our technology use, monitoring and control. It's almost like alien, really, isn't it? I mean, we can understand what these words are. What about technology design and programming, or resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility? Did your teachers help you, or do your children's teachers help them deal with stress? They created more stress.
That's interesting. I mean, you can create stress by struggling at what you're doing, and we know that in our work life. But at school, if you can't do the subject, you just stress out. You know, I remember my kids saying, "Talk to the hand." You know, I don't want to hear it. I'm too stressed. I mean, how should a 12 or 14-year-old be stressed? It's a brilliant time of life to exist. They shouldn't know what stress is in many respects. But the point is, they're not taught how to deal with stress.
So Neville, let me share something.
And what about?
Before you
go ahead.
Continue with your list, let me share something. Well, when I was in 8th standard, we were supposed to go to 9th and then 10th. So in 9th and 10th, there is, higher mathematics, which is because it's a senior school and there is going to be a board exam. So from 7th onwards, we have been hearing, oh, 9th class is going to be so tough. They are going to introduce differentials. And for 2 years, we were hearing differentials, and by the time we reached 9th standard, we had already made up our mind that differential will not get into our head. It's beyond us. So this is a real scenario of what happened with me and with my classmates, that we were so scared of differential because seniors were telling us, hey, you don't know anything about maths, you are studying in middle school, come to 9th, you'll know what is integration and what is differential.
Exactly. And I love maths. So that would have really excited me too. I love to problem solve maths problems. The thing is, they were maths problems. Very few were real life problems. So even being really good at maths, the analogy to real life just didn't exist. And that's the piece of the puzzle here. What we do at school is important. Elon Musk is wrong by saying a degree isn't worth taking a degree. A degree is worth taking a degree because you're learning how to think. You're learning how to apply yourself. So we're not saying that the school system's completely wrong. It's just that it's not actually helping us immensely when we get into our future life. So how to do a tax return, how to do a budget. We do all the maths, we do all the, complex equations, but we don't actually go and complete a tax return, which everybody has to do these days. No matter where you are in the world, you have to do a tax return once you get to a certain age. And create a budget for living at home. And yet, when we learn how to use a budget, I was given pocket money when I was younger, and I knew at the end of the week I was always overdrawn. I was into next week's. So I didn't actually live within my means. But it was always I wanted more. And it was only when I realized, actually, if I do a few more chores, I could get more. So this is how to negotiate, okay? But we're not taught negotiation skills at school either. Unless you're going to swap your cheese and tomato sandwich for a ham and tomato sandwich with your mate that's got ham and tomato. Because you like ham and tomato and he likes cheese and tomato, That's the limit of our negotiation skills in some respects. And then we come on to the last one actually on this list. It's a long list, but it's short list in some respects because it's only the top 10. There are many, many more skills. And the last one is reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. I had to look up what ideation was, by the way. But in other words, it's coming up with ideas, being creative. Some people might call this thinking outside the box. My answer to that question is what box? Who's created the box? It's a figment of your imagination. If you assume there's no box, then you may get the right answer. So all we're saying here is for at least 4 decades, 40 years, because I'm 62 and I'm going back to when I was at school, at the end of my secondary school, going into university. All the global statistics have pointed to education systems developing academically qualified young people. But the real important skills that we need as we go forward, the interpersonal skills, the right attitude, what we might call as work ethic, are lacking in the majority of young people. How do we know that? You've only got to ask a recruiter what they look for, and they'll tell you. There are thousands of degree candidates applying for jobs. So they're looking for something else. And the something else they look for is what you might call employability skills. I prefer to call them soft skills, and the right attitude. And the right attitude is about, are you prepared to put in the extra effort? If you take the job from 9 to 5, do you get there at 9 o'clock and leave at 5? And take exactly 1 hour for lunch and all the breaks that you're allowed in your contract? Or do you, like I would, get there before 9, make sure I'm there ready to start at 9 o'clock? And when it comes to 5 o'clock, I'm not rushing out the door because I've had enough for the day. So that's what we're talking about, attitude. And we're not taught these things at school, but we should have learnt them. Because we are rushing out of each class to get to the next class or to talk to our mates, because that's the class over, the bell's gone, the dinger's gone, whatever it is. And we rush out of the class because we're just, we're not interested. We're moving on to the next thing. So all of these things that we've developed, our behaviors over the years, we need to now think back on where our behaviors come from and unlearn the ones that really are not any beneficial. So as I say, our approach here is everything you should have learned at school. And in some schools, it was there as part of the learning process, but you didn't notice it. The class starts at 9. Well, make sure you're there at least a minute before 9, because you need to sit down and get your books ready. How to listen, be attentive to the teacher. The teacher wants to teach you stuff, wants to impart knowledge. Did you ever read the chapter before the lesson so that you can actually ask questions during the lesson? Or did you wait to the lesson to read the chapter? Or did you actually never read the chapter at all and just literally made a few notes from what went on the blackboard or the whiteboard and put it into your notebook? How good were your notes when it came to revision? Did you wait until the end of the year to do revision? Or did you look at the end of the week and think back of what you'd learned? In a business context, we all do that all the time. What did I learn? What worked? What didn't work? Why did it work? How will it work again? All these questions that we ask ourselves, and then we never answer them because we're now asking them for the first time, whereas we could have asked them as we were at school, because that was the perfect time, because we were supposed to be on a learning platform. What they say about education is for life, lifelong learning. Well, it starts actually when we don't have all the difficulties we have of running a household, making a budget work. So I hope this is sort of making sense here. And that's what we're all about.
Well, Neville, let me ask you a few things. One of the things that is lurking in my mind is that before the modern education system actually, came into the existence, people were doing things like carpentry, blacksmithing, and technician, electrician, things like that. And those are the skills that people actually learn by becoming apprentice of a senior electrician or a senior carpenter and all that. And where are those educations? I think my biggest worry is these are the real life skills which people must have, how to create things. You talked about ideation. So how do you get the practical experience of ideas if you are not doing things with your own hand? So I have not seen any institute teaching things like, they may be teaching engineering, but they are not teaching things like carpentry. They are not, because that's also a big science, because if you go to Japan, you will see 1,000-year-old temples still standing without using nails. And they have used natural strength of the material of the wood, which is a very, very highly complex job. So nobody's teaching that. I think, what is your opinion on this subject as well?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are things, in the UK, we call these vocational skills. So, and there are technical colleges, and they're called technical colleges, where you do and you study to be a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, a general builder, how to lay bricks, plaster, rewire a house, even gardening and landscaping. I mean, all of these are very practical, what we call them vocational skills. So there are those colleges that do exist here. I mean, maybe they don't exist in India. Maybe they should exist in India, because these are highly skilled individuals. I mean, when I bought my second house, I went on a plumbing course because I wanted to know how I was going to put a central heating system in, and make sure I've got the hot tap to the hot water rather than the cold tap to the hot water and all that sort of stuff. And I learned how to do plumbing. It was an evening course, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it's a very practical thing to do. And more importantly, it saved me a lot of money, actually, than getting these, experienced tradespeople in that would do it in, a tenth of the time that I was doing it. But obviously, I didn't have the money to pay them to do it, so I did it myself. And I think these practical skills we forget about. Even landscaping your own property. Can you put a brick wall up? Do you know how to mix sand and cement and be able to put a brick wall up? Because I can tell you I do, because I wanted to learn how to do it. It was a very practical skill. I'm not very good at it, because I'm a bit rusty. But after, laying a 10-meter wall, by the time I get to the end of the wall, I've been pretty good at it. And I probably go back to the beginning and repoint it. But again, these are practical skills for life, and we need to be focused on what's going to make me happy, what's going to help me in my future career. And a lot of the things that people need to be asking, when you're young enough, is ask your parents, what do I need to learn? So if you're now at the age of, 25, 26, my advice is go back to your last school and give all of those school kids your knowledge. Go back and tell them, this school's done a great job because it's really helped me get where I am. But here's a few things that you need to know. And you're not going to learn them in school. And it could be how to do a tax return, how to rewire a plug, how to make meals, how to cook, bake a cake. Not a qualified chef, but to be able to buy things for yourself. Where's the best place to go and buy food? And a convenience store is not the best place because you're paying more because it's convenience. No? So is 2 for 1 a good purchase? Is the bog off deal a smart thing to do? How you could work with your neighbor and go and say, well, I need potatoes, you need potatoes. They're doing 2 potatoes for 1, the price of 1. Well, okay, we can split the bill. And these are the things we should be learning, but we're not. And these are just very practical, very simple things. I mean, am I talking rocket science here? I mean, am I completely, am I speaking on Mars and you're on the Earth and you don't understand what I'm saying? Or is it just common sense?
It's absolutely common sense, and we should be doing all this. And we have to be very practical. In my opinion, the vocational courses are also available in India and everywhere else. But the problem there is that the career path is not very well defined, in the sense that if you're trained out of a vocational college, you have to still work as an apprentice for 5 years to 10 years. It's a very long drawn process. Even driving, for that matter, if you're driving a lorry or a big truck, you have to be apprentice of a driver for about 10 years before you qualify to become a driver, because it's a very technical job. You have to manage the big vehicle, big heavy vehicle. So I think we need to propose a little bit of change in our education system, where we actually start branching out people what they want to do, instead of making them study till A level or 12th standard, as we call it in India, and then decide their career, because they would have wasted 18 years of their prime life. So we can branch them out much earlier, like at the age of 10 or 12, what they want to do, and then put them equally with equal benefits across different line of services. Don't you think this is better approach?
Oh, I do. And, I run a lot of programs in other parts of the world. I'll call them entrepreneurial type programs, where we do a bit of a hackathon and we have a bit of fun for half a day. And what that does is it pushes people into a place that they've never been before, which is always interesting. And then it helps them think. So let me give you an example. Here you go, CK. You're the guinea pig of the day. And again, people don't know we're ever going to do this. So this is a surprise for you. What board game do you like playing?
Well,
any board game. Doesn't matter what it is.
I like
Carom.
Yep.
Okay. What I'd like you to do, and this is just a quick thinking exercise. I'm going to show you how innovative you are. Okay. Now, Carom it's got a board, it's got counters, and it's got rules. What I want you to do is just think very quickly of a new counter that isn't currently in the Carom board, the Carom game, that you could introduce as a new player in the game. Could be a wild card. It could be a joker, So imagine you're playing cards and you actually say blackjacks are anything. Okay, so you're playing cards, and all of a sudden, if you get a blackjack, it could be an ace or a king, or it could be anything. All right. So imagine you're playing Carom, and you're going to create a new counter, a new player on the board. So what would it be?
It is like this, Neville. When I'm planning it, whatever comes to my mind, I'm just saying that. So if we have the last ball on the table, then you suppose there are two balls, two rolls. They are on the table. If you miss one, that means you are out of the game. That means if you're not able to pocket one without pocketing the other, you have to pocket both of them together, if there are only two left on the table.
Okay, so there you go. So you've just been creative and you've changed the game fundamentally. So now it's not about the strategic way you're playing the game, it's the end game. So you've created something very different. It's that end game that is really, really important. So that's quite critical to all of this, and it makes a big difference. So you're just showing yourself how innovative you can be.
But
again,
welcome to the discussion, Sneh.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, welcome.
Can you hear us, Sneh?
Yeah.
So we are discussing about what you should have learned in school, but you didn't. And I have my friend from UK, Mr. Neville, who is actually conducting this discussion for us. So we are discussing about how we can be imaginative and how we can use our skills to be successful. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, you can keep listening to what we are talking about.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, well, we were talking about the game Carom, and because that's what CK likes playing, and he created a new rule, really. So as you get to the last two balls on the table, you have to put two balls away at the same time. You can't just put one away, which changes the rules fundamentally. But what the point is, it changes the game fundamentally. So we can be very creative, even with a game that everybody plays. Does that make sense?
Yes, in fact, I'm bringing my knowledge of snooking. So I'm actually saying that, hey, if you pocket the one of the ball, the other one has to go. So I'm just adding that, and that was my logic, Neville.
Yeah, I mean, I love billiards and I love snooker too. So I would be changing. I'd be bringing in some of the really good components of one game into another. But the point is, we weren't taught this at school. We weren't taught to, the answers at the back of the book don't look because it's cheating. And by the way, there's only one answer. But when we get into real life, after school, it's very rare there's only one answer. There's 3, 4, 5 different ways of doing things. Building relationships, talking to your children, recognizing that you might have 3 or 4 kids and they're all different and they're all motivated by different things. So you as an adult need to be creative, not just at home, but also in your work life. And the more creative you are, the more fun you're going to have. And the more fun you have, your bosses will look at you and they'll say, well, we want more of this. Let's promote them. And all of a sudden, you get promoted because you're enjoying what you do, you're having fun, and you're delivering. And then you're put in charge of a team. But so how do you work with a team? How do you become a leader? Were you taught that at school? No. Are they going to attend you on a course? No, because it's too expensive. And not only that, you're going to have to take time out of the workplace to learn about leadership. But you can learn about leadership today. Google it. Go on to TED Talks. You can find all about how to work with people, how to be a team player. So these are just common sense things that by being part of this online arena, you will learn. But you learn by doing. You don't learn by listening. So whatever we're saying here, it's great, it's going in this ear, but it will go straight out the other ear if you don't stop it somewhere in the middle and start doing something with it.
So Neville, I think what you're saying in a nutshell is that attitude is the most important soft skill that one should have, so that you can get things done, you can get you can shine in your workplace, you can shine in your school, and that is one skill which is missing in all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just take one of the favorite sports of Indians. Now, we invented the game, but you're getting good at it, all right? It's called cricket. All right? Do you both like cricket?
I like it.
Do you like cricket?
Sneh, you like cricket?
No, I don't like
You don't?
cricket.
You don't like cricket? But if you did like cricket, and how would you get better at cricket? By listening to people talking about cricket, or by going onto a cricket pitch and bowling a ball, or using the bat, or standing behind the wicket, or standing in the field? How would you get better? Just by listening or by doing?
Doing.
Doing. Simple.
Yeah.
So what do you like doing?
I like batting.
You like batting. You told me you just didn't like cricket. So you now like cricket. It's okay, I'm only joking. All right. But what do you like doing? In your life, what do you like doing?
I like doing meditation, connecting with peoples.
Okay. And what is it about connecting people that you enjoy?
By meeting new peoples, talking with them, and giving them a positive way of life. Tell them how to be healthy with the help of meditation.
Okay. But you're telling them. So how are they going to be healthy? They're going to have to meditate, presumably.
What?
They're going to need to meditate to be healthy, is what you're saying.
So in
Nope, we've lost it.
Net is,
in other words, basically you are going and meeting people and telling them the benefit of having a good health by meditation. But if the person you're meeting is not practicing what you're saying, that was the point that Naval is trying to drive here. Somebody has to practice it, what you're saying, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
And even if they practice meditation, but they don't believe in it and they just do it, in other words, their attitude isn't right, then they're not going to get the benefit.
Yeah, when they will do it practically, then that will give result. Only listening is not enough. Practical is a must.
Practical, but it's having the right attitude to it as well. So it's not just a matter of following you showing them how to do meditation and going through the process. It's them physically doing it and having the right attitude to do it. I know lots of people that say they meditate, and then I watch and they don't meditate at all because their mind's not on meditation. Their mind's somewhere else. They're thinking about what they're going to have for dinner, what shop they're going to have to go to buy the vegetables. So they're not actually meditating, they're just relaxing. And there's a huge difference between meditation and relaxation. I'm sure and so I don't want to, tell you to suck eggs, but the benefit of real meditation. But the likelihood is, unless people have got the right attitude, they won't generate those benefits. They'll get some, but it won't be long lasting. And then they'll come back to you and say, well, it didn't work very well for me. You didn't teach me right. And the result of that is you're a good teacher. They're not a very good listener and they're not a very good practitioner because they've got the wrong attitude. So it's a matter of getting that right attitude to start with, having that can-do attitude, as you see in the background, having a can-do attitude. And that's something we should have learned at school, but we didn't learn that either.
So, Sneh, I want to ask you something. When you meet people and you tell them about meditation, how do you tell them that you must follow your advice? What is your strategy when you ask people, you must do meditation like this, the way I'm telling? You have some strategy?
Yeah, I have a 3 days course on it. I tell them then how they can get a benefit of meditation. First step, they have to change their attitude, their lifestyle, some rules and regulations. If they want to reduce their stress, they want to concentrate, they have to do it practically.
And do they last the course? Are they there for the 3 days?
Sorry?
Do they actually last the course? So once they start, do they all come out of the other end absolutely brilliant and perfect?
So after 3 days, how many becomes a good meditation practitioner after attending your class? I think that's a summary of the question.
Okay. It depends how many, if 10 peoples will attend, difficultly 1 or 2 will follow.
1 or 2.
So 1 or 2. Okay. So Pareto was right, about 20%, 80-20 rule. Okay.
Yeah.
But why do the other 8 not do it?
I can't say.
I can. Attitude.
Okay.
Simple as that. They don't believe it. So let me give you a very simple equation. All right. How good are you at equations? Are you good at equations?
No.
No. This is a simple equation. All right. This is nothing difficult. All right. So just listen. Okay. our beliefs and our experiences. So beliefs plus experiences equals our attitude. And our attitude in action is our behavior. Okay? So the one or two that created a good behavior at the end of the course, they become good practitioners, okay, and they get the best out of meditation, have got good behavior, which means they had a good attitude, they believed in what they were doing, and they just had a really good experience.
Just 1 minute, my battery is going to dead. I will connect again. Just 1 minute, please.
Okay. So, does that make sense to you?
Neville, I think attitude is the most important thing. I mean, if you're doing it, you have to do it with your, wholehearted feeling. And you're absolutely right. To create that character in school, is nobody's focusing on. You talked about ideation. I think that's also a very, very important skill. How do I create ideas to solve the problem? What I see in front of me. For example, Sneh has a problem. Obviously, 8 out of 10 students to whom he's teaching meditation are actually not learning anything from his three days course. So I think the ideation is very, very important in this case, where he has to see why he is showing only 20% result, why he cannot improve the overall attitude of his class. I think that is what my understanding of this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in many respects, he needs to. So, for instance, if I go on a 3-day course, I'm committed to that 3-day. I'm not, even if it's free, I'm not going to sign up for a 3-day course if I'm not actually committed to every single day. So I will get the most out of every day. However, let's just say that I'm one of those 2 people that finish the course and I get the best value, all right? I will meet the other 8 who won't do it. They will be committed at the beginning, otherwise they wouldn't have come. But as they go through those 3 days, if they last the 3 days, they will be dragging me down because they're going to be taking more time from the instructor, which is my time. So they're limiting my result. And more importantly, I have to be more resilient to make it work for me because there's some negative stuff going on over here. And when you've got 80% negative and only 20% positive, it's really tough as an individual to ignore that 80%. It's a bit like watching the news and dissecting all the news, the half an hour of news, and picking out the 1 or 2%, which is really happy. Because the rest of the news, it may be factual, but it's very negative. And we've seen that with COVID. It's made people even more negative. Well, so the key element here is that attitude.
Absolutely. As a solution, I think Sneh can work out a different level of his programs. Maybe he's doing it. He's dropped off, but maybe he's doing it in the sense that he can have basic program from where he can take out the serious players and put them in advanced program and so on and so forth. So he knows exactly that some people will be left behind in the basic and some people will migrate to the to more advanced programs. So that is the way he can actually improve the overall quality of his herd of students. The herd will be better, as you are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the herd would be better. So, maybe do, a 2-hour introductory, and then that'll wheedle out all of those that really aren't that serious. because the people that do last that course, you really want them to go on. I mean, there's no point in running a course if people don't get benefit from it. Like anything else, I don't want to take people's money just for the sake of taking money off them. I want them to have that benefit of moving forward with something not just they've learned, but they've practiced, and they go away and they keep practicing. As you know, I often say any practice makes permanent. Only the right practice makes perfect.
So I think this is a very critical learning we had, and we also had one of the members in the group joining us, and he's the healthcare or sort of meditation expert who's actually training people. And one of the biggest thing that like he is facing, everyone is facing the same thing, which is we don't have the best attitude of people who are doing things. So I think the one thing that we need is attitude development, where we actually make sure that we do things in a proper way. And for that, Neville is actually running a course which is called Your Passport to Grow, and which actually changed your psychology. So Neville, will you like to talk about a little bit about YP2G?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it is literally everything you should have learned at school but didn't. I mean, that's the whole point of this group here. And we focus on 10 soft skills, the most critical soft skills. Now, that doesn't mean to say we ignore the rest. So whilst we may be focusing on communication as the number one soft skill, what we're also doing is we're building the underpinning soft skills, which include attitude. So it's being committed, being confident, being resilient, being calm, being collected, and at the same time being patient. Because we're asking you to do a lot of things where you need to involve other people, and patience and resilience come to the fore. Because you can't force other people to do things. You have to negotiate with them. Be real with them. I'm not saying beg or implore, because we don't use those types of words, but reason with them. And as I say, negotiate the terms of reference and ask them for help, because that's really how you're going to grow. So we focus on these 10 soft skills, and we even, because it's quite difficult to learn these soft skills, we split it in half. So we actually focus on 5 in our first part and another 5 in our second part. And these courses run for about 15 days. What that means is that there's a lot of e-learning going on because they're all digitally driven. But the element that we really know where you'll be successful is what we call e-doing. So the e-learning part is 5% of the time, and the e-doing part is what you take away, and that's 95% of the time. And as I say, 15 days, about 5 or 10 minutes online every day, not difficult to do. You go at your own pace over that 15-day period, and at the end of it, we ask you to reflect on what you've learned, what it's meant to you. How did you feel about the program? What did you really learn about yourself? Because this is about experiential learning of yourself, not anybody else. This is about how you deal with things in your world. And at the end of the 15 days, we ask you to do 350 words. You might call it an exam. It's a review, just to show that you really have been on this journey and you've listened to yourself. You've listened to the feedback you're getting from other people. You get 360 feedback on a regular basis. And typically in any part of our course, in each of our 15-day courses, you will be speaking to approximately 20 to 25 people during that program. So you're getting 20 plus people's view of how you're doing, how you approach them, whether you were engaging, whether they were excited by the discussion. And that's how we learn. We get feedback from other people. And we ask them to be honest too. And the whole point is you're honest with yourself. There's lots of little quizzes we do in the program to make it a bit of fun. We ask you for what you think. Then we give you options, and then we ask you to compare the options to how you thought in the first place. Because all we're trying to do is develop that can-do attitude that's going to put you on the journey to success. So it's as simple as that. We've got so many parts that you could engage with. There's over 60 programs that you could engage with, but you all start with program number 1. And they're all 15 days long. And frankly, you don't need to get past 5 or 6. You don't need to do the whole 60. 5 or 6 will be good enough for the majority of people. And you'll complete that in approximately, say you did each part, and it took you approximately a month. So 15 days of learning, 15 days of review. So within 6 months, you're way, way on your journey to being that person who's got the can-do attitude. Now, remember, as CK knows, having a can-do attitude doesn't mean to say you can do it. The ability is something else. We're talking about the attitude to it. It's more than a positive attitude. It's being focused, it's being committed, it's being confident, it's being resilient, it's recognizing you may get it wrong, but you can bounce back. You may have taken the wrong turning, but you're aware to stop moving down that path and maybe come back and go down another path, or just adjusting your path to go somewhere else. For those of you that like sailing, it's like tacking. You know, the wind is blowing in the same direction all the time, but you know that you can adjust your sails to actually go in the direction that the wind's coming from. But it might mean you have to go this way, then this way, then this way, then this way. And it's all about planning, actioning, again, being resilient and being aware that the wind may change direction, in which case you've got to change direction. So it's a fascinating program. We've spent years developing it. We work with very senior executives on our live programs. And what we've done is we've broken this down into bite-sized chunks so that for 5 or 10 minutes a day, you can go online and you can be as good as they are. And believe you me, the response we've had over the years we've been running this is that people just go on one amazing journey. They develop a massive can-do attitude. They also potentially become confident enough to take their entrepreneurial step. Just to do something rather than be an employee, take the next step. So we can develop entrepreneurs just by getting people in the right mindset, with the right focus, and more importantly, the right attitude. So I've said a lot about it, but the key thing is it's all about you. It's not about me. It's not about CK. It's not about anyone else that's been on the program in the past. We don't measure you at all. There isn't. The answer's not at the back of the book, so don't even bother looking. It's about you and your context, where you are, where you want to go, and how you want to grow. Simple as that, really. But in essence, everything you should have learned at school but didn't.
Absolutely. It sounds very exciting, and I think it's going to be a very interesting program, and people should try it out, YP2G. And if not, then please join us in the next episode of our group discussion, which is going to be scheduled on every Friday between 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you so much, Nibal, for finding time and joining us for this group discussion. And we will catch up next week.
That's a pleasure, CK. Good luck, everybody, and get that right attitude.
Right. So it was a great discussion we had, and so a few people were able to join this live session, which was running on the Facebook Live. But we have this recording. We will put the recording also. You can view it later, and we are going to come here every week. So next week we will see better participation. More people can jump in and ask their question from Neville. So goodbye, friends, and we will catch up in the next episode of You Should Have Learned Everything in School, but You Didn't.